Joining us now, personal finance expert and partner at Exit Wealth Advisors, Ted Jenkin. Good morning to you. You've said the tariff situation could hit Americans hard. We're seeing the consumer reaction to that in real time today. What's top of mind for you as you look at the status of these tariffs and the impact?
Yeah, well, good morning, Marnie. And I think Americans are fearing price hikes right now, and that's why they're rushing to buy essentials, like you mentioned, coffee to cars, furniture to shoes. In fact, 20% of all Americans are spending more than they normally would on essentials right now, stocking up in fear of these tariffs hitting their wallet. My fear for Americans is already $1.2 trillion in credit card debt at a 20% interest rate, $1.7 trillion in debt on auto loans. And I'm not sure a lot of Americans are going to be able to dig out of this black hole of debt if they get themselves further in debt. I think we're going to see lots of personal bankruptcies over the next couple of years, unfortunately. So that's my concern for Americans.
It's tough to predict what the market will do. I think going into today, we're pretty safe to anticipate that it would be another deep dive. But as we go through this week, what do you expect and what is worst case scenario?
Well, listen, Marty, the opposite of confidence is uncertainty. And certainly Americans, but also the stock markets, don't like the certainty of uncertainty. And if there continues to be a retaliatory tariff war, that's no good for the market. So what would settle the markets? Some countries saying, hey, look, we're going to go to zero tariffs, or some tariffs being settled in general. But if the tariffs escalate over the rest of this week, I think we're in for a very, very bumpy ride the rest of this week.
What are you looking for from the White House? You mentioned that tariff timeline is a total unknown. What signs or markers would you be looking for that relief is coming, and might that impact consumer confidence?
Well, I wouldn't begin to speculate as to what's going on in President Trump's head right now as it pertains to the tariffs. I personally think that he's using these tariffs potentially as a bargaining tool for a renegotiation of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. To pressure Chair Fed Powell to lower interest rates overall. But I think these 50 phone calls that they may have received over the weekend, what would put some people's mind at ease, Marnie, is simply saying, wow, there aren't going to be tariffs in every country, or some of them, we know what the tariff's going to be, and that might steady out the market.
Can you give an explanation, Ted, just about the overall question as how American companies will be impacted, right? I mean, I've heard the White House say if you're an American company and if you buy U.S.-made goods, you won't be impacted by this. But the truth of the matter is American companies rely on the global market as well. Where are we seeing that impact, and how difficult might it be for some of these companies to adjust to this?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be true in the short run. I think in the long run, if more jobs come to America, there's more investments in America, and the White House gets their way with that, then ultimately we could see a decrease of prices down the road. But you can't turn the Queen Elizabeth in a bathtub, which is what we're trying to do right now. I think it's going to take at least 9 months, maybe a year, before you see any positive impact for American companies.
And what do you think about people buying in bulk some of these items that they're worried will go up?
I mean, I don't let your credit card debt sort of wag the dog. And what I mean by that is that if you're in a lot of debt, it doesn't help yourself to buy things to put yourself further in debt. So I only would buy what you need. Certainly, if you're going to make an automobile purchase, especially one that's foreign made, it's going to be $5,000 to $15,000 higher, Marnie. So that makes sense to do it. Even American cars are probably going to be $3,000 to $4,000 higher. So if you were in the market to buy a car, now's probably a good time to do that.
And as you look at the numbers, are you fearful they'll go deeper into the red? And what will you be looking for throughout the day as signs of a rebound?
Well, people should remember that there's roughly $7 trillion on the sidelines. So that money has to go somewhere, Marnie. So if that money interjects itself back into the market, that would be a good thing. But if we continue to see retaliatory tariffs this week, I think it's going to be a bumpy ride. And yes, this could get further red.
All right, get that seatbelt fastened. Ted Jenkin, thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Marnie.